What is going on in the reverse repo market? Dave here. I want to go a little bit into what you might hear around the traps at the moment about the reverse repo and how that is in contrast to last, or would be 2019 September, where there was a repo market issue. And what is the repo market? It's just a short-term lending facility set up so the banks can essentially lend to each other and other institutions. They put it, whoever wants some money puts up some collateral and they can borrow it. It's a basic understanding of it anyway. What happened in September 2019 is there was no good collateral, so the rates went up massively, so no one was willing to lend any money. Now we've got the opposite. We've got a massive amount of liquidity in the system, and I wonder where that's come from, hey? Nothing to do with the central bank making it rain and the low interest rates. And what that ends up doing is the banks basically have all this extra cash on board at the moment, and they've got to put it somewhere. They are restrained, from what I gather in the US, they're restrained by having too much treasuries or cash on their balance sheet. So they're forced to try and put that somewhere. And usually a good spot is, to lend it out. And it's a weird situation because they're all running to lend all this money out. It started to push rates lower to the point where they were going negative. And the central bank, the Fed, jumped in and is now borrowing off those same banks to keep the rates up higher. So while it's trying to push rates down in the long end of the curve, like the 10-year, it's also trying to pull rates up in the short term. And that's mainly because of all the liquidity in the system. It's a pretty weird situation we're in. It's very opposite of the last couple years where credit was starting to tighten and you had really a low amount of good collateral in the system, where it does make me wonder, is the collateral actually any better, or is just our risk assessment of it gone down and it's really just a symptom of all this money that's been flush into the system. It's got to go somewhere. Banks can't keep it on their books, so they're forced to lend it out. No one's actually, and what's interesting is you'd think that the normal facilities like mortgages and the like would be able to lend it out through there, but they're a little bit hands tied on that because they do want to maintain good collateral, I guess, or good lending sort of standards. And so they don't want to just lend out to anyone and have a situation of what you had in 2007, 2008. So my guess is they are trying to find other ways to deposit that. And at the moment, the Fed is basically having to pull it onto their balance sheet. How is that going to affect the sort of path going forward? I don't know. I think about this in a sense that it's almost the opposite situation, but what this could create is some real short-term, and we're kind of seeing it now, we're seeing like short-term inflation, whether that is transitory or with supply lines sort of able to meet demand, it sort of amps up. I don't know. I'm reluctant to sort of make any judgment calls on that. Obviously, my investment thesis is to go in the line of inflation hedging, and that's mainly because you've got this long-term trend where they're always going to be, you might have these short deflationary events, but typically it's a long-term inflation, especially if you're marking it against a currency. But how does this, if you think about it, if they start irrationally lending out money again and we start seeing people taking on way more debt than they can actually service, I think that could lead to a real big problem. And if we see inflation spike up massively and this money start to move around quite rapidly, the central banks may be forced to even just thinking about increasing interest rates. And I think just thinking about increasing interest rates is going to enough to spook the general market, and you might get this deflationary shock. And that's going to, I think people don't realize how much this cheap money is seeped throughout the entire system. And as soon as you tighten up credit, it's going to kick a few people in the pants. Right. That's a basic overview of the repo market anyway. How will the cryptocurrency market go? I don't know. If the inflation narrative's there, all assets technically are going to be a good place to put your money temporarily anyway. So I think it could give that good kick till the end of the year in cryptos, and then you're going to have this huge deflationary event that might happen in January, February, and it will drag us through the cleaners and drag everyone. They'll probably blame it on the crypto market, no doubt, because that will inflate probably massively as it's very liquid. But we'll just have to wait and see. I'm going to kind of do more little clips like this. It's not really a clip anymore, isn't it? It's 6 minutes. Too easy. Well, see you later. Have a good day.